Today we're going to continue our work on systems of equations. We're going to look more in depth on finding a solution to a system, looking at the table, whether it's on paper in the calculator, and also by graphing in the calculator, finding the intersection. I'm also going to show you a bit of a shortcut on how to get a problem that is not in y equals form into a y equals form so that we can go ahead and quickly and correctly put it into the calculator. Okay, so first let's just start and look at these tables. We already know that a system of equation is two or more equations that we have to solve. So we have to find one point, one ordered pair that makes both of the equations true. So when we understand that, we can look at a table and say, okay, what we're looking for is one point that's the exact same on both tables. So if we look at this first table and we go through and we look, we can see that this table has 2, 1, the exact same point in both of the tables. So both equations contain that point. So we know our answer is 2, 1. Okay, now let's look at the one beside it. And this time it looks like 2, 6 is in both of our tables. Okay, now when we look at this next one, I can look and see none of the points are the same in both tables, at least in the little view that they gave us. So what we're going to have to do is get the equation for each one of these tables using our stat edit key, and then we can use our calculator and take it from there. So go ahead and pause the video and put the first table in to your stat edit, calculate and write down the equation, and do the same for the second table. Start the video up after you've got the equation for both tables. Okay, so I took the first table and put it through stat edit and came up with an equation of y equals 3x plus 2. And on my second table, it was y equals 5x minus 10. Now I put both equations into the y equals key under equations y1 and y2. And then I do the second and calculate, which is above the trace button, so second trace. And I'm going to calculate the intersection, which is number 5. And after it graphs the two lines, I'm going to press enter 3 times, and it's going to tell me that my intersection is 6, 20. Okay, let's do the same process again for the next set of tables. So pause your video and go ahead and get the equation for both tables, and go ahead and do the calculation, second calculate intersection, and get the intersection, then start the video back up. Okay, check your answer, make sure that you got the same equations and the intersection. All right, so I told you that we were going to look at kind of a shortcut to getting into what we call the y equals form, which is appropriate for the calculator. All the calculator needs is for you to get it into y equals. Doesn't have to be simplified, you just have to have it down to a single y equals on the left side of the equation. So the steps are the very simple steps, and I've listed them right here, the 4 steps that we're going to be using. And all they really are, every single time, you're going to start by putting a right parentheses. So we're going to put that right parentheses right there in front of whatever we have on the right-hand side. Next thing we're going to do is write the opposite of x. So what is the opposite of our x term right here? So right now it's a positive 3x. So we're going to write negative 3x. And then we're going to close our parenthesis. And our last step is a division. So do our little division sign, the y number. So we actually have to look, what's our y number? We got a negative 3, so divide it by negative 3. So now I can just go into the y equals key, and I can put that parentheses 10 minus 3x, close my parentheses, divided by negative 3, and I can find my table. I can find my graph. If I have a second equation, I can find my intersection. Hopefully what it'll do is cut out on some of the errors in solving for y. You still need the skill of solving for y. There's things that you might need to use it for, but if you're working with a calculator, this is the most error-free way to get into a y equals format. Okay, so let's try it again. First step is to do the right parenthesis. Then we're going to do the opposite of 2x. So the opposite of positive 2x is minus 2x. Then we do our left parenthesis. And our last step is to divide by the y number. Our y number is 14. That's all there is to it. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bigger. Okay, for the last one, pause your video and go ahead and give it a shot, and then check back in and make sure you did it right. Okay, so you should have done right parenthesis, opposite of x, left parenthesis, divide by, and here was the trick on this one, my y number right here is -1, so you're dividing by -1, and that's what you would put into the calculator. Okay, let's turn the page. All right, so now we're going to actually put all of this into play, giving you a bunch of systems of equations. I want you to practice getting them into the calculator form, putting them into the calculator, and solving them. So let's go ahead and just start with number 1 over here. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, if we look at number 1, neither one of these is in y equals form. So we're going to do what we just learned. We're going to do the parenthesis on the right. The opposite of positive 4x is minus 4x. Parenthesis on the left, divided by my y number. My y number is 3. Okay, so that one's ready to go into the calculator. And now let's do it again. Parenthesis on the right, the opposite of my x, so the opposite of negative 8x is positive 8x, parenthesis on the left, and then I'm going to divide by my y number. Notice my y number this time is just plain old 1, so divide by 1. Okay, so now that I have both of these into a y equals form that the calculator will take, go ahead and pause your video, put them both into y equals on the calculator, and calculate the intersection. Okay, when I put this into the calculator and do second calculate intersection, I come up with my solution as 1, -4. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2, we also need to get into calculator form. So I'm going to go ahead and do those 4 steps. So first step is right parenthesis. Then I'm going to do the opposite of positive 5x. I'm going to do -5x. Left parenthesis. And then I'm going to divide by my y number, which is 1. Now I'm going to do it again. Right parenthesis. What's the opposite of 3x? -3x. Left parenthesis. Divide by my y number, which is -2. Okay, so go ahead and put these 2 into the y equals. Pause the video, come back and check your solution. Okay, when I put these into the calculator, I come up with a solution of 2, -2. Okay, again, let's go ahead and get number 3 into the calculator form. So on number 3, first thing we're going to do is our right parentheses. Then we're going to do the opposite of the x, so -10x. And we're going to do divide by the y number, which is -8. And our second one, we're going to do the right parentheses, opposite of the x, left parentheses, divide by the y number. Okay, pause the video, put those in, calculate the intersection. Okay, when I put them into the calculator, I come up with a solution of 0, negative 0.5. Okay, let's look at number 4. Now number 4 is a little different when we get ready to put these into the y form. We can do the first one, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. Do our parenthesis on the right, do the opposite of our x term, close our parenthesis, and then divide it by our y number. But if we look at number 4, everything's flipped around. So before I even try this, I'm going to go ahead and just flip it. I'm going to put the 20 plus y on the left and the 7x on the right. So 20 plus y equals 7x. Then I can follow my steps just as normal. Sorta. Remember, we're trying to get y by itself. So just follow what happens. We're going to do the parenthesis on the right. Normally, we do the opposite of the x term. But if you notice, this isn't an x term over here. It's just a number. So we're going to do the opposite of the number because our goal is still to get y by itself. So the opposite of positive 20 is negative 20. Close our parenthesis. And then we're going to divide by the y number. The y number is 1. So all we did was flip it around, but this time, since it was just a number, we're taking the opposite of the number. The goal is still the same. Okay, go ahead and pause your video, put these into the y equals key, and get the intersection. Okay, so when I put these guys in the calculator and I graph it, first thing it looks like is they look like they're parallel lines. And when I continued, I got the error no sign change, again telling me they're probably parallel lines. I want to verify that because sometimes it's just they're close to being parallel, but they're not, and I need to zoom way out. So I'm just going to look at what I've got here. I know that my slopes have to be identical to be parallel lines. So let's look at my two slopes. I have a negative 14x divided by negative 2. So negative 14x divided by negative 2 equals 7x. And then here I have a positive 7x divided by 1. So I have 7x divided by 1 also equals 7x. So my calculator said it looked like it was parallel. I've just verified the slopes are exactly the same. So parallel lines never cross. So I have no solution. Okay, let's look at number 5. Number 5 is your turn. So go ahead and pause the video, get them both into y equals form, put them in the calculator and calculate your solution, then start the video back up to test it or to check it. Okay, so I came up with the solution to this one of negative 2, 2. Now let's go ahead and look at number 6. Again, work the problem, pause the video, work the problem, start the video back up to check your answer. Okay, when I did this and put it in the calculator, I only saw one line actually graph on the calculator. Now, if you go ahead and go through the process, it gives you some sort of an intersection, and it's just really wherever it's picked. But if you only see one line, first thing you need to do is go back and verify that it's the exact same line, because if it's the exact same line, it's infinite solutions. If the other line is way, way out somewhere, if you have to zoom out to find it, then you will have an intersection at some point. But if I look at this, really between these two equations, 10, negative 8x divided by negative 12, all of these are really the numbers below multiplied by 2. So 10, 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Those are the exact same line. So my answer to this thing is infinite solutions. Okay, and the last thing that we're going to do is kind of put it all together. So we're going to put it all together by reading this situation, and we're going to have to figure out two equations that go with it, so pretty much what we did last class, and then we're going to have to take it to the point of solving it. So let's just start by reading the situation. So take a moment, pause your video, and read the situation. Once you've read it, start the video back up. Okay, so what we're looking for is how many students were in each van. So we have vans and we have buses. So we have vans and we have buses. So I'm going to let my x equal vans and my y equal buses. That's too many s's. Let's try again. B-U-S. Yes, buses. Okay. Now, let's come up with our two equations. High School A took and filled 10 vans. So High School A did 10 vans plus 6 buses, and that was 276 students. High School B did 5 vans and 2 buses, and that was 117 students. So now I have my two equations. Going to put them into the y equals form for the calculator. So my right parenthesis, opposite of my x, left parenthesis, divided by my y number. And again, my right parenthesis, opposite of my x, my left parenthesis, divided by my y number. Now I have my two equations ready for the calculator. Go ahead and put them in your calculator. Calculate the intersection, and then start the video back up. Okay, I'm sure you had the same problem, but when I put these two equations into my calculator and I graphed it, no lines came up on the screen. So I actually had to zoom out a couple of times before I could see the intersection, because the calculator won't calculate the intersection if it can't see it on the screen. So finally got it zoomed out enough, and I know the solution is 15, 21. So we need to write what that means, because it didn't ask for a point. It asked how many students were in each van. Well, vans are X, so we have 15 students per van. And then how many people did we have on the buses? Not very big buses. We had 21 students per bus. Okay, so we're going to keep practicing on this in class. If you have any questions, come to tutorials.